Naruto looked at Gaara, who looked back with an angry expression on his face. Both opponents were fighting with everything they had. Whoever won this match would take the victory. Letting out a light sigh, Naruto raised his hand towards Gaara, sending the roots towards him. The redhead for his part began to run through the sand, dodging. At one point he jumped to dodge a root, but another grabbed his foot and threw him against the ground. Getting up from the ground, he hit his transformed arm, making a wall of sand appear that blocked the roots. Then he made the sand wrap around him before applying enormous pressure on them, breaking them. Suddenly Gaara received a kick to the face from Naruto that made him take a few steps back. Letting out a roar, the redhead launched an attack, starting a taijutsu fight, with Gaara using wide and powerful movements while Naruto threw strong and fast blows, Gaara being the one who took the initiative while Naruto dodged and counterattacked. Gaara tried to hit him with his tail as if it were a stinger, but Naruto jumped to dodge it. Gaara took the opportunity to grab him by the foot and slam him against the ground with enough force to make some cracks appear in the ground. Spinning on his feet, he threw Naruto, who rolled on the sand. Gaara went towards him, jumping high in the air with the intention of crushing him. Naruto, who was still on one knee with his hands together, sending his chakra to the ground, making two wooden roots appear that went towards Gaara, who was still in the air, grabbing his feet before pulling him, hitting the ground. The redhead, half stunned, got up, slowly looked up only to see a foot approaching his face. Naruto launched himself to attack the derived Gaara, hitting him with a chakra-enhanced kick directly to the face, sending him flying across the arena. Gaara got up with a furious look, growling at the redhead. Naruto for his part launched himself at him with his right hand wrapped in chakra. He threw a punch at the same time that Gaara threw his own with his transformed arm. Both blows collided with each other, releasing a pulse of chakra that cracked the ground around them. They remained in the same position, colliding glances. Gaara spun on his feet, trying to sweep Naruto's feet, but he jumped just in time. Gaara did not stop and continued with the spin, throwing a reverse punch with his right arm. Naruto was able to cover himself with his arms but was sent backwards, falling to his feet, skidding on the ground. Pointing his right arm towards the shot, dozens of sand spheres causing Naruto to run across the combat arena while dodging them. At one point he stopped, bringing his hands together, causing wooden roots to emerge from the ground in front of him, protecting him from the drizzle of sand. With 3 quick hand signs, he caused 4 large roots to burst out of the ground and attack Gaara. The sooner redhead jumped out of the way before the roots impacted right where he was, while Naruto jumped on top of one of the roots and began to run, taking something out of his kunai holder. When he got close to Gaara, he jumped off the roots and ran towards the redhead, who threw a punch just as he got close, but Naruto jumped over him, doing a spin in the process and landing behind him, hitting the thing in his hand on the base of his tail. I use a quick kawarini with a log just in time to dodge Gaara's blow. What stuck in the redhead was a kunai with an explosive note that detonated just a second later. The audience was shocked to see the fight, and even more so how Naruto seemed to have a slight advantage. Gaara was slowly getting up as the sand fell from his body. At the same time as he tried to regenerate, he turned to see Naruto near the sand trees with an impassive look, his only eye looking at him without any fear. Less than I can't lose. I won't lose. My existence won't be erased. Greater than, Gaara thought as he stood up, his sand body almost completely rebuilt, but at that moment wooden roots emerged from the ground beneath him, immobilizing him. He tried to free himself, but it was useless. Naruto, seeing his opportunity, attacked, moving in a burst of speed, appearing in front of Gaara, his right fist glowing with chakra while his single eye glowed with the blue light of his hand. Black flash. His blow hit Gaara's chest, causing the same black flash with hints of red to appear. The force of the blow was so much that it destroyed the roots themselves, while Gaara spat out a little blood from the blow. He fell to the ground about 2 meters from Naruto on his back, looking at the sky with his sand body partially destroyed. With the spectators. I'll beat him, Ino shouted, Sakura silently beside her with wide eyes at the fight, while Kuji ate profusely from the excitement of the fight. That's how it's done, Gaki, Anko shouted. Yosh, what a youthful fight, said Guy. Incredible. I've never seen anything like this, said Kakashi. Sasuke looked with his eyes and mouth open at the demonstration of power of both redheads, especially Naruto, who seemed to have taken the advantage in the fight. Less than how are they so strong? I knew Gaara was strong, but I didn't imagine how much. And Naruto, since when did the Dobi become so strong? Greater than, he clenched his fists, feeling rage mixed with confusion. This can't be. Kankuro muttered as he saw someone defeat his brother Gaara. Greater than, thought a worried Temari. In the arena, Naruto looked at his fallen opponent once more. The black flash technique was becoming one of his favorites. He approached while staying alert. He couldn't let his guard down at this moment. How are you so strong? Gaara asked. You fight for yourself, you don't have anyone worth fighting for, at least that's what you think. I, on the other hand, although I can't say I have many close people, in reality I only have 3 people and one is already gone, but I still fight for them. You fight for others. What nonsense, that only makes you weak, said Gaara as he tried to get up. Then why are you the one on the ground defeated, replied Naruto, earning a grunt from the redhead. I know what it feels like to be alone too, Naruto said in a vague voice so only Gaara could hear. I never had any family or friends, the few people I considered close kept secrets from me for years. Hey! I shouldn't even be alive right now. He ran his fingers over his eye patch. Our life is hard, but the path you've chosen will only lead to an early death or worse. It will lead you to being alone. Sensei, is there no one like you? Naruto asked. Who knows, last time I checked I was the last one, although it must be due to certain circumstances, but maybe there are more somewhere. Don't you feel lonely? Naruto asked. Partly, more than anything, I miss the time when I was with my friends, and you? Do you feel lonely in your village? Hanami asked. If I do, I only have the Ichiraku family, everyone else is acquaintances at best, and those I thought were close aren't that close, said Naruto. I'll tell you something. In this life of shinobi you will face many strong opponents who will hurt you both physically and mentally, but the greatest pain there is loneliness. The greatest pain there is loneliness, Naruto said to Gaara, who looked at him surprised. Anyway, this fight is over, think about what I told you and think about whether you are really as alone as you think. Making the ram sign, he made mother roots come out of the ground, wrapping Gaara, who was kneeling. Once wrapped, several white, blue and pink flowers bloomed on the roots, making Gaara feel a sense of calm. Naruto stepped forward and placed his palm on Gaara's forehead before closing his eyes. The landscape was dark, there was nothing but a stone floor with water. A giant sand axe silhouette rose from the ground. Damn brat, now I can't get out, he shouted. Suddenly a fox-shaped shadow appeared with its eyes shining in pure red as it smiled. Ha ha ha. Looks like you lost again, Shukaku, it said with a smile. Shut up, he shouted. Don't feel bad. It's normal for my Jinchuriki to defeat yours, he said, keeping his smile. Fuck you, and what the hell is that, brat? Said Shukaku. A very special one. I'm eager to see what he does in the future. Anyway, we'll see each other another time, Shukaku, he said as he disappeared. Idiot fox, he muttered before disappearing as well. In the arena, Naruto opened his eyes as he removed his hand from Gaara's head. It's over, he muttered. At that moment he felt a disturbance, and when he looked up he saw white feathers falling all over the stadium. He easily dispelled the genjutsu. When the Kiji's cabin exploded, sounds of combat began to be heard and the Uzumaki had to jump back when some kunai hit where he was. Tamari and Kankuro along with their sensei Baki landing next to the unconscious redhead Gaara. Tamari shouted, approaching her brother who was still immobilized by the roots. Damn, this can't be worse, said Baki. Genma appeared in front of Naruto. Kid, the exams are over, your village needs you, can you still fight? Who do you think you're talking to? I can do this all day, he said, cracking his neck. The real battle is about to begin. Konoha had become a battlefield. Shinobi from Sunagakure and Otogakure invaded the village. The Konoha shinobi came out to defend themselves while protecting the civilians. One of the village walls was suddenly destroyed by a three-headed snake summon. A group of shinobi tried to stop it by launching Kaden jutsus, but they could only stop it momentarily. The Konoha shinobi rushed to the main gate as the enemy forces entered through the gate and a pitched battle broke out. The Chunin exams combat arena was in chaos. Sleeping civilians were everywhere while the shinobi fought. Tamari, Kankuro, take Gaara to a safe place, said Baki. Kankuro fired a poisoned senbone from his puppet's mouth towards Naruto and Genma, causing them to jump to dodge it. Baki took advantage and cut the roots that held Gaara with his wind chakra. Once free, he was taken by Kankuro and the three brothers disappeared. Naruto, go after them, said Genma. Don't worry about them, they're not a threat. Gaara is neutralized and his brothers won't claim to be on his side. Now we have to focus on finishing off everyone else, he replied. Baki got into a combat stance with a kunai in his left hand and his wind sword in his right. So Sunagakure has betrayed us, what a disappointment. I didn't expect something so low from you. I guess you sand rats don't have an ounce of honor, Naruto said, smiling mockingly. Baki frowned at the blow to his village. You talk too much like a boy. And you get distracted very easily. A wooden spike came out of the ground right next to Baki. The Jonin leaned his body just in time to avoid any damage. Unfortunately for Naruto, he took advantage of this and charged at him, hitting him with enough force to knock him down to the ground a few meters away. Some roots came out of the ground and immobilized him. Genma, take care of him, I'll go after everyone else. He disappeared in a burst of speed without noticing the examiner's expression. Less than I'm supposed to be the superior, greater than he thought. In the stands, a battle was taking place with the Konoha shinobi defending themselves from the enemies that had infiltrated. Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai and Guy were destroying all the enemies while the Jinan covered the civilians. An auto shinobi tried to attack Kurenai from behind, but was sent flying by Naruto's fist. Naruto said Kakashi, but the redhead ignored him as he put his hands together releasing his chakra. A dozen roots came out of the ground and launched themselves at the enemies who could only defend or flee. That makes things easier, said Asuma. Does anyone know what the situation is in the rest of the village? Naruto asked. The enemies managed to make an opening in one side of the walls with snake summons while trying to enter through the main gate, Guy said. Nodding, the redhead made his characteristic hand signal summoning 100 shadow clones go through the village in groups of 10 and finish off the enemies who managed to enter the village. The clones nodded and left. The original Naruto turned around ready to leave, but Kakashi stopped him. Where are you going, Naruto? He looked at him with a calm expression. I'm going to take care of the summons and any shinobi I find on the way. He didn't give him time to answer before disappearing in a sunshine. Running through the village he encountered some enemies that managed to break through the defenses, but he deflected them all before moving on. It wasn't too difficult for him to find the snake summon. Once he arrived he saw how the Konoha shinobi fought against the enemy shinobi while some kept the snakes at bay. Suddenly 24 wooden roots came out of the ground and attacked the enemy shinobi like a pack of snakes. Near High Anko, who had arrived to support Aviki, looked in surprise at the spectacle. Anko smiled knowing who had arrived to help while Aviki looked in shock. What the hell is this? Said Aviki. That Aviki is Naruto Uzumaki. The kunoichi smiled as she launched herself into the attack again. Now that they had the roots as support they began to quickly gain the advantage. Several minutes later the battle in that area had already ended and the bodies of the enemies were lying on the ground. Aviki was talking to a subordinate telling him to gather the remaining shinobi and go to an area to support the others. Anko for her part was bandaging a cut on her arm. It wasn't a big deal but it bothered her a little. Naruto appeared at that moment a little tired from having to control all the roots at the same time as monitoring all the fights to see who needed help. He still had a long way to go before he was as good as his teacher. Well, look who's here if it's not our hero, said Anko with a mocking smile. Anko greeted Naruto. This is Naruto Uzumaki, the same screaming blonde brat from a month ago, Aviki asked with a raised eyebrow. The same, Anko said. Is there anywhere else that needs my help? Because I was planning on taking care of that summoning, he said, pointing at the snake. Alright, the counterattack has already begun and thanks to your help we were able to finish sooner and with fewer casualties, although can you really take care of that thing? Aviki asked, receiving a nod in response. Anko, go with him and help him with the snakes. You 4 too, he said to a group of Chunin. When you have finished let me know and I will give you more instructions. Receiving a nod from everyone the group went to deal with the summoning. Hey Gaki, do you have a plan? Anko asked. Distract that thing while I immobilize it with my roots, then we'll give it the final blow, he replied. Sounds like a plan to me, said Anko. When they arrived Anko and the 4 Chunin climbed onto the rooftops and launched fire jutsu at the snake, causing it to stop for a moment that was taken advantage of by Naruto, who was on the ground, clasping his hands while channeling a large part of his chakra. The ground cracked as a dozen large roots shot out and wrapped around the snake's body, causing it to hiss. The roots tightened around it as it tried to escape without success. It would have been difficult to deal with a summon, but this one had 3 heads. Anko, Naruto shouted. Everyone attack now. The kunoichi shouted as she went through a series of hand signs, throwing Katen jutsus, kunai with explosive tags and dabas, but the damn snake wouldn't give up. Fuck. This is tough, Anko said. Anko, I have an idea, Naruto said, getting her attention. I have a trump card, but I'll need a few seconds to prepare it. Prepare for the worst once I leave my concentration on the roots. Are you sure about this, Gaki? He asked. Trust me, this will work, Naruto replied. Okay, do it then, said Anko. With a nod he knelt down while pressing his left hand to the ground, closing his eyes in concentration. A yellow energy began to flow from the ground being absorbed by Naruto's hand. Anko noticed at that moment that all the plants in the place began to rot. The roots that imprisoned the snake began to break, causing the shinobi to prepare themselves. Naruto, for his part, opened his eyes as he stood up with the palm of his left hand glowing a reddish yellow. Less than it's time to end this. Greater than Naruto thought. He launched an attack making 2 roots rise horizontally towards the sky, allowing Naruto to climb them. When he reached the top he jumped, staying at the perfect distance from the central head, pointing his left hand towards his head with his right hand holding his wrist. To the surprise of everyone watching, an attack made of pure energy in the form of a laser came out of Naruto's palm and hit the right eye of the central head of the snake. Screaming in pain it fell to the ground and writhed for a few seconds before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Naruto smiled as he saw how his technique worked. He had his doubts but they didn't have many options. Less than sensei was right, this attack is very powerful, greater than Naruto thought. From the improvised tower he had made, a root came out and wrapped it around his waist, taking him back to the tower. Anko and the other shinobi looked at the Uzumaki in shock, unable to believe what they had seen. Holy shit, Gaki, said Anko once Naruto reached the ground. I told you it was a trump card. Although I still haven't fully mastered it. His left hand was smoking a little and had many scratches. His bandages had disappeared in that area and also on his wrist. Added to that, he felt quite tired. You should back off, we can follow you from here. You've done more than enough, Anko said. Okay, but there's something I have to do first. Konoha Forests. The Sand brothers were resting for a moment after having gotten far enough away from the village, having had to avoid all the fights. I think we can be more relaxed here. No one has followed us, said Kankuro, who was still holding Gaara on his right shoulder. You think so, said someone behind them. They turned quickly to see Naruto looking at them with an expressionless face. Shit, now this, Kankuro muttered. Temari positioned herself in front of him with her fan ready. Calm down, I'm not here to fight. So what are you here for? Temari asked without letting her guard down. Do you really care? She asked, confusing them. What do you mean? The Uzumaki pointed at Gaara. Do you really care, or are you so scared of him that you don't even see him as your brother? Naruto asked. Of course we care, he's our little brother, said Temari. And why didn't you help them when they needed it? They didn't say anything for a few seconds. Finally Temari answered, we couldn't, we were children when Gaara closed his heart. I didn't want things to end like this, but I couldn't do anything. And now what will you do? Asked Naruto. I'll do what I have to do, take care of my brother, said Temari with Kankuro nodding behind her. Naruto stared at them for a few seconds without saying anything. Well, that's what I wanted to know. He turned around ready to leave when someone called him Uzumaki. Gaara said weakly. Gaara, Temari shouted. How did you manage to overcome loneliness, he asked. Naruto didn't turn around, he stayed with his back to him. I didn't overcome it. I was there with no one while pretending to be something I wasn't. Thinking I had many friends. But in reality I was alone. He brought his hand to his eye patch. But as they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I felt death so close that it's a miracle I'm alive. A small smile appeared on his face. But I met someone who reached out to me, helped me more than anyone had ever done, and now I don't feel alone anymore. He looked towards the forest, feeling a connection with nature. You have your brothers, so you're not alone. He turned around and looked at him with his one eye. Someday we'll see each other again. I hope to see how much you've changed. Who knows, maybe we can have a rematch. He turned around and jumped between the trees, rejoicing. Temari, Kankuro, I'm sorry, Gaara said, surprising his brothers. It's okay, Gaara, Temari said with an understanding smile. Let's go home, she said. 2 days later. The sky was cloudy. It seemed like an appropriate climate for the occasion. The funeral of those who fell during the invasion was taking place, which included the Sandaime Hokage. The old Kage fought against his former student Orochimaru, who replaced the Kazekage, enclosing himself in the Hokage in a barrier. Despite his age, the Sandaime was able to deal a fatal wound to Orochimaru with his last strength, forcing him to retreat. The different shinobi paid their respects at his grave while the relatives mourned his death. Away from the others, under a tree, Naruto watched the ceremony with an impassive face. He turned around, leaving the place. Walking through the village that was empty, he could barely see anyone. With a sunshine, he disappeared and reappeared at the Hokage monument above the Nidame's head. He sat looking at the village. I wonder what the future holds, he thought. At that moment the clouds parted a little, letting some rays of sun illuminate the monument and the Uzumaki who was there. Naruto was in his apartment. A week had passed since the attack and he had done nothing but rest. He had earned the rest after everything he did during the invasion, not to mention that he spent a large part of his chakra. The redhead was lying on the couch in his living room doing nothing when someone knocked on the door, banging very loudly. Grunting in annoyance, he got up and went to the door. It would be better if whoever bothered him had a good reason. When he opened the door, he didn't expect to see the Toad Sage standing at his door. The Sannin was silent without saying anything. Before he could say anything, he was embraced in a bear hug. You're alive, you're alive. Thanks to the wise man. I thought I had made the worst mistake of my life leaving the redhead on the ground. He began to inspect him, but how? Not even I could have survived a fall from that height without protection. Perhaps it was the KY chakra. Jiraiya stopped when a fist hit his ribs quite hard. He took a few steps back with a slight grimace of pain. Naruto was looking at him with a frown. His only visible eye was glowing dark blue, reflecting the Uzumaki's annoyance. What do you want, Jiraiya? Naruto asked. The Sannin regained his senses and quickly knelt with his head pressed to the ground. Naruto, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for things to turn out this way, it was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you. When I thought I had killed you, I felt like I had committed the worst of sins. Please forgive me, said Jiraiya. Forgive you because I should, Naruto said. I understand that you don't want to forgive me, I did something horrible to you and I marked you for life, but I want you to know that it was never my intention to hurt you. I admit that I was a terrible teacher and that I should have helped you from the beginning. As I said, I don't expect your forgiveness. I knew from the moment I came that you may never forgive me, but if you ever need anything you can ask me, said Jiraiya with his head still on the ground. Naruto stared at him for a few seconds. He hated Jiraiya for what he did to him. Who wouldn't? But on the other hand, his stupid actions made Naruto meet his teacher and become much better than he could have ever imagined. He couldn't forgive him, but he would take the offer of the Sanin's favor. Is that all you came to say? Naruto asked. I actually came to request you for a mission, said Jiraiya, who raised his head to look at the redhead. And why would I go on a mission with you? I asked, raising an eyebrow. The mission is to go find the next Hokage, Tsunade Senju, said Jiraiya. Tsunade Senju. But she hasn't been in the village for years, why her? Naruto asked. Before the finals, Sarutobi-sensei left an announcement about his chosen successors. He explained that these were his only options and also sent a message to the daimyo to make him understand his point. After arguing, they tried to give me the position, but I declined, so Tsunade is the only option. Kakashi and Shikaku were also candidates, but despite being very intelligent they lack the raw power that a cage needs, explained Jiraiya. And what makes you think Tsunade will be a good leader? Naruto asked. She has what it takes, she just needs someone to bring her back to the right path. The elders wanted me to lead an ambu squad, but I refused, so I came to ask you to come with me, said Jiraiya. The Uzumaki thought about the offer. On one hand, he didn't want to be near Jiraiya, but on the other, he could meet the last member of his family. According to his teacher, the Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan were cousin clans, and if his teacher's assumption was correct, he and Tsunade were more related than it seemed. I'll agree to go, but only because I want to meet Tsunade. We'll see each other at the main gate in 3 hours, said Naruto, closing the door to the Sanin. Well, it could have been worse. At least he didn't try to kill me. From what I've heard, he's gotten really strong and has the Mukuten. I wonder how Tsunade will react, Jiraiya muttered. The 3 hours passed quickly and the duo left the village, running through the trees at Naruto's request. He would want to end this as soon as possible to find Tsunade. Unbeknownst to the duo, 2 mysterious people dressed in black cloaks with red clouds and straw hats covering their faces were looking down on the village from one of the walls. Oh, Orochimaru sure did a number here, although from what we know it didn't turn out very well, said the taller figure with a smile. What are you saying, Itachi? You don't feel anything about returning to your old home? Don't waste your time with nonsense, Kisame. I don't care about this place, let's finish the job and go, he said. Legos. From there, the duo of Naruto and Jiraiya walked through a town. The redhead looked from one side to gold, looking for something to do. When he saw a lottery drawing, with nothing to lose, he approached. Minutes later he returned after having won the prize, to Jiraiya's surprise. Normally the Sanin would try to take the money from him, but he knew that Naruto would not take it well. After a few hours they arrived at a town where he would rest. Jiraiya was going to accompany Naruto to a hotel, but an attractive young woman winked at him, making the Sanin forget everything and follow her, to Naruto's annoyance. Perverted and idiotic old man, thought Naruto. Forgetting about his annoying traveling companion, he lay down on the bed in his room to rest, or he would have done so if it weren't for someone knocking on his door. He immediately sensed malicious intentions and was on guard, deciding to see who it was before taking any action. When he opened the door, he saw a young man in his 20s with a pair of Sharingan staring at him. Naruto-kun, we need you to come with us, he said. This is the Jinchuriki, he doesn't look like the one they described to us. Anyway, I might have to make sure he doesn't escape, said the taller of the two. I don't think it's necessary. Now Naruto-kun, please come willingly, said Itachi. No thanks, I'm not into going out with a stranger. Why don't you both find a room for the two of you and leave me alone, said Naruto, slamming the door. The two stood still for a second, not knowing what just happened. Ah, Itachi-san. This brat just closed the door in our faces, Kisame asked. Yes, he did, Itachi said, his Sharingan spinning in annoyance. Well, in that case the door was destroyed by Kisame's sword, but Naruto had already left and gone out the window. The redhead ran through the trees of the forest trying to get away from the unknown duo. He knew from their chakra signatures and their mere presence that he was no match for either of them. He stopped when a presence appeared in front of him. Falling to the ground, he saw how the black-haired man appeared in front of him. It's over, Naruto-kun, I'll only say it one more time, give up, said Itachi. Kisame landed behind the Uzumaki, cutting off any exit. I guess there's no other choice, Naruto muttered. Before any of the three did anything, a new presence appeared. Itachi, said Sasuke, who just appeared at the side of the group. Sasuke, it's been a long time, said Itachi. And who is this? He looks like you, Itachi-san, Kisame asked. He's my little brother, Itachi said. Itachi, you don't know how long I've been waiting for this moment. I did what you asked, I've hated you. I've despised you and now I'm going to get my revenge. A Chidori appeared in his left hand. It's your time to die, Sasuke yelled as he launched into the attack. Stop, idiot, Naruto said but was ignored. At the last moment, Itachi grabbed Sasuke's wrist and deflected the Chidori into a tree, breaking it. The two brothers looked at each other angrily, one at a time, the other calmly. Before Sasuke could do anything, Itachi broke his wrist, making him scream before kicking him straight into a tree. Idiot, Naruto muttered and then jumped to the side, dodging Kisame's sword. That sword is not normal. I can feel something coming from it, Naruto said. Oh, you noticed? You're right, Saimata is not a normal sword. Let me show you what makes it special, said Kisame with a smile, showing his shark teeth as he pointed the sword at Naruto. At that moment they heard a scream, and when they looked they saw Sasuke collapse on the ground at Itachi's feet. Wow, you used that jutsu on your brother, you really are ruthless, said Kisame. Let's get this over with before Jiraiya comes, Itachi said. I agree to finish this, Naruto said, joining his hands together, releasing his chakra as he pointed his hands at the two enemies, causing 24 roots to emerge from the ground and attack them, forcing them to jump to dodge. What the hell, Kisame shouted. Looks like things won't be so easy, Itachi said, dodging a root. The kid has a few tricks up his sleeve. Well, that makes things more interesting, Kisame said with his shark-like grin. Let's get this over with, Kisame, Itachi said with his Sharingan spinning. The two Akatsukis did not expect to find themselves in this situation. They had gone to Konoha with the objective of capturing the Nine Tails, thinking that it would be an easy capture if the information they had received from him was any indication. They had to deal with the Jonin that got in the way, and if it weren't for the fact that they were drawing too much attention, they could have killed 4 elite Jonin. Kakashi had already been neutralized, and Asuma and Kurenai wouldn't be a big problem. Guy, on the other hand, would be a problem. The man was dangerous and Itachi knew it. Kakashi may have been considered the strongest Jonin, but that was only partially true. The moment Guy started to open the doors is when he became truly dangerous. In the end, the two members of Akatsuki left, having demonstrated why you wouldn't cross their organization's path, even less so when those two Akatsukis were Itachi Uchiha, the perpetrator of the Uchiha massacre, and Kisame Hoshigeki, the monster of the bloody mist and the tailless Bijou. Now the two S-class ninjas found themselves dodging wooden roots that were lunging at them like a group of snakes. Katen, Gokakyu no Jutsu, said Itachi as he launched a large ball of fire, destroying the roots that approached him. Kisame, on the other hand, used his sword Saimata to destroy everything that came near him. The two lost ninjas ran towards Naruto, wanting to neutralize him as soon as possible. Seeing this, the Uzumaki made some roots rise from the ground just below him, raising him to a great height. The roots had formed an improvised tower that leaned to one side. Itachi and Kisame did not stop and climbed the tower of roots at high speed, dodging and destroying everything in their path. Just when they were about to reach Naruto, the roots that made up the tower disappeared, leaving the two Akatsukis suspended in the air while Naruto remained floating in a wooden sphere. Itachi's eyes opened discreetly as he saw how they were tricked. He didn't expect the roots to simply disappear, and now he and Kisame were falling. As if that wasn't enough, 2 roots with a sharp tip were heading towards them. Naruto thought he had managed to catch the 2 missing ninjas by surprise, but before the roots could hit them, they disappeared into a flock of crows. He clicked his teeth in annoyance as he ordered the wooden sphere to descend to the ground. He jumped to the ground again, looking in a specific direction. Not bad, brat, not bad, said Kisame as he along with Itachi left the forest. It seems that the Nine Tails is more dangerous than we thought, Itachi-san, said Kisame. So it seems, Itachi said, keeping his face expressionless. We have to finish this now. We don't know how many more surprises it has in store. Before they could attack, they heard a new voice. Earth release. Underworld swamp. The ground around the 2 Akatsukis began to melt, forming a lake of mud that swallowed everything it touched. They quickly jumped between the trees and landed a good distance away. Jiraiya landed in front of Naruto, looking at the 2 Akatsukis. So Akatsuki is moving. I didn't think they would come for Naruto first, said Jiraiya. Jiraiya. So it was you who told Kakashi about us, said Itachi. I'm sorry, but if you want Naruto you'll have to go through me, said Jiraiya. Kisame, we're leaving. Things have gotten too complicated. It's best to retreat, Itachi said. His partner clicked his teeth in annoyance but obeyed. They both disappeared in a sunshine, leaving the duo alone. Are you okay, Naruto? Asked Jiraiya. I am. Now you have some things to explain, said Naruto. After the two returned to the hotel with an unconscious Sasuke in tow and had a nasty encounter with the green beast of Konoha, or rather it was Jiraiya who had a bad encounter, they returned to the road. The hours passed and the duo arrived at a city called Tanzaku-gai. On the way, Jiraiya told him about the Akatsuchi organization and what their objective was: to capture the tailed beast. For what purpose, only Kami knew. What Naruto knew for sure was that the next time he encountered an Akatsuki, he would be prepared, as his teacher would call it, to show them the full power of nature. As the duo walked, they heard a commotion and climbed up onto a wall to see what was going on. They saw many people running in the other direction. "Hey, what's going on?" asked Jiraiya. "A monster destroyed the castle, you should leave here," said one of the civilians. "Monster?" Naruto wondered. The duo wasted no time and went to what was once a castle. At least half of it was destroyed. The Uzumaki crouched down, placing his hand on the ground. Closing his eye, he felt the nature around him while trying to figure out what happened here. Jiraiya looked at him with a raised eyebrow but said nothing. "He opened his eyes." "Standing up snakes," said Naruto, catching Jiraiya's attention, who frowned upon hearing the word. "Come on, we have to keep looking," said the Sannin. The two spent the rest of the day checking out bars and gambling dens without any success, eventually going into a bar to get something to eat, and it was at that moment that they found the person they were looking for. "Tsunade!" Jiraiya shouted. "Jiraiya," said the now named Tsunade, standing up. "It's good that I found you," said the Sannin, sitting at the table with the Uzumaki. It was then that he saw a woman with short black hair with a pig in her arms. "It's been a long time, Tsunade," Jiraiya said with a smile. "Seems like it's a day of reunions," Tsunade muttered. "So you saw Orochimaru, what did he want?" Jiraiya asked. "Nothing important, just saying hello," said Tsunade, while her companion seemed uncomfortable. At that moment, the waitress arrived with plates of food that the redhead had ordered. She began to eat quietly, not paying attention to the wordplay between the two Sannin, while giving discreet glances to the blonde woman. "So she's my last familiar?" Naruto thought. At that moment Tsunade paid attention to the redhead, having ignored him until now. "Who is the boy? Don't tell me you took another apprentice?" asked Tsunade. Before Jiraiya could say anything, Naruto got ahead of him. "I'm not your apprentice and I don't want to be," said Naruto. The two women looked at him with an eyebrow raised at the statement, while Jiraiya slightly looked away. "By the way, I'm Naruto Uzumaki." "Naruto, nice to meet you," said the redhead. "Shizune Kato, a pleasure, and I suppose you already know my teacher." Tsunade said the now identified as Shizune. "Tsunade, there is something we need to talk about," said Jiraiya, getting her attention. "The village is in a critical situation and we need a strong leader. That's why you have been chosen as the 5th Hokage," said Jiraiya, surprising the two women. Tsunade remained silent for a few seconds before speaking. "I refuse. I will not take that stupid position. Those who choose to be Hokages are nothing more than fools," said Tsunade. "Tsunade, the village needs you. You are the only viable option," Jiraiya insisted. "I already told you that I will not accept being Hokage. All the Hokages are nothing more than fools who wasted their lives. Why should I do the same?" said Tsunade. At that moment Naruto stood up, calling the attention of the three. "Let's go, Jiraiya. It's clear that she doesn't want the position. It's not like she has the qualities to be a Hokage. Some would even say that she doesn't deserve it," said Naruto. "Who do you think you're talking to, brat?" Tsunade growled, annoyed by the comments. "Let's get this straight," said Naruto. "The Sandaime died because of his own stupidity. He was the one who let Orochimaru go all those years ago, and it was his indirect fault that caused the invasion. No matter what you say about your sensei, it was his fault and no one can deny it. He had the chance to eliminate Orochimaru once, but he let him escape. Even after discovering the experiments he did, he still let him go. Any of you have thought about the many lives Orochimaru ruined after the Sandaime let him go? How many people must have suffered because of that psychopath, and all because your teacher got sentimental with a person who did inhumane experiments on people? The Sandaime's hands are stained with the blood of innocence," said Naruto. The table fell into absolute silence. None of the three could say anything about it. Tsunade and Jiraiya looked at each other without knowing what to say. As much as they didn't like to admit it, the Uzumaki was right. As for the rest of the Hokages, they had something that you two lack: the will to sacrifice themselves. The first Hokage gave everything for the village, seeking to build a place where children could live in peace without having to fight in unnecessary wars. His will was so great that he faced Madara Uchiha and the Kyuubi the same night without hesitation. The second Hokage gave his life for his subordinates, diving headfirst into fight against 20 elite Jonin of Kumagakure led by the Gold and Silver brothers, who were pseudo-Jinchurikis of the Kyuubi and had weapons that belonged to the Sage of the Six Paths. And finally the fourth sacrificed his life and my mother's to save the village 12 years ago. And how do they repay you? Saying that you were fools who waste your life and spitting in your memory. Maybe the stupid ones are not them. Perhaps you do not understand the meaning of self-sacrifice, said Naruto. Silence was all there was on the table. Even the pet pig was silent. None of the three could say anything after hearing the redhead's words. The Uzumaki turned around ready to leave, but Tsunade's voice interrupted him. Where do you think you're going, brat? Said Tsunade, who was furious at what she had been told. I already said everything I had to say, said Naruto, looking at her with his one eye. Now it's up to you to decide what you want to do. Continue wasting your life on alcohol and gambling or do something worthy of the last senju, said Naruto, and then left the three in silence. The Uzumaki walked through the forest in silence, enjoying nature. He came to a small clearing and lay down on a large rock while looking at the night sky. Master, in times like this I wish you were here to ask for your advice, Naruto murmured as a gentle breeze swept through the clearing. Tsunade and Jiraiya were currently at a bar having a glass of sake. Shizune had returned to her hotel quite some time ago, leaving the duo alone to reminisce about old times. Tsunade took a sip of sake and turned her head to look at her old companion. So what's up with the brat? He doesn't seem like a normal Jinan, or a normal child for that matter? Tsunade asked. Jiraiya took a sip of his drink before letting out a sigh. He wasn't like that the first time I met him, said Jiraiya. Under Tsunade's curious look he continued, the first time I met him he was a happy, kind, energetic, somewhat silly but a good kid. But things happened and now he is like this, said Jiraiya. Tsunade didn't say anything for a few seconds, she just looked at her sake glass. He's Minato and Kushina's son, right? Tsunade asked. I guess there's no point in hiding it, he's already mentioned his mother before and probably knows who his father is too, Jiraiya said. He said you're not his teacher and that he didn't want to be. Is there a problem between you two? Tsunade asked. If you knew, what would you do with Naruto anyway? If he knows about his mother, he might know about the relationship between the Uzumaki clan and the Senju. He is possibly your last relative, said Jiraiya. Honestly, I don't know. I couldn't imagine having another family member again, and I'm still a little upset about what he said before, said Tsunade. It's not like he's not right, Jiraiya mentioned, earning an annoyed look from Tsunade. Don't look at me like that, Tsunade. We both know it's true. Everything he said, we haven't done things right these past few years, Jiraiya said. Tsunade looked down at her sake glass knowing that her fellow Sannin was right. It had been a long time since anyone dared to speak to her like that. Even Jiraiya and Orochimaru knew what to do. Making her angry was not a good idea. But that boy, he had told her the truth to her face without any fear. Everything he said was the pure truth. From his sensei being an idiot for letting Orochimaru escape to her mocking the memory of the Hokages, two of them being her own family. What would her grandfather, her grandmother and her great-uncle say if they heard her? I'm going back to my hotel, Tsunade. It's been a long day. You should do the same, said Jiraiya. He left some coins to pay for his drink and left. Tsunade didn't take long to leave after he left. The next morning we can see Tsunade walking through the village of Tanzaku with no specific place to go. She had decided to take a walk to clear her mind since the memories of the night still resonated in her head. As she walked she felt a chakra signature coming from the forest. Curious, she went inside determined to find it. The Senju stopped walking when she found the chakra signature that belonged to none other than Naruto, who was in a forest clearing engaged in shadow combat, that is, fighting against an imaginary enemy. Her fists were enveloped in a dark blue chakra aura as she threw punches into the air along with a few kicks. She looked quite impressed as his fighting style reminded her of her. After a while Naruto stopped and the chakra disappeared from his hands. You can come out, I know he's there, Naruto said as he turned around and watched Tsunade come out of the trees. How did you know he was there? Are you a sensor? Tsunade asked. Let's just say I have a connection with nature and I could feel you, Naruto said. They both remained silent after that, not knowing what to say. Naruto let out a sigh as he sat under a tree and gestured for Tsunade to sit next to him. If you have something to say about what happened last night then say it, Naruto said. Tsunade frowned for a moment before sighing in defeat. As much as I hate to admit it, you're right in what you said. I've been drowning myself in alcohol and gambling because I don't know what else to do. I lost my loved ones and now all I do is travel in search of something to entertain myself. If my family saw me they would be disappointed in me, Tsunade said, looking at the ground with a defeated and sad look when the truth hit her full on. I won't lie to you and say that your family wouldn't be upset with you, but as your family they would help you, and that's what I plan to do, said Naruto, confusing Tsunade, who looked at him without understanding. Help me? Tsunade repeated. What would you say if I told you that you are not the last of your family, said Naruto. Are you saying that because you're an Uzumaki and I'm a Senju? Asked Tsunade partly, but I don't mean that. I think it would be better to show you, said Naruto. The Uzumaki took a seed from the ground and placed it in a small hole. This is what I meant, said Naruto, who placed his right hand in the hole where the seed was and sent a little of his chakra. Tsunade was shocked with wide eyes as she saw a bonsai tree blossom from the ground and fully mature in a few seconds. That's. Tsunade tried to say but couldn't finish the sentence. Makuten, or at least a variant of your grandfather's. I guess we could call it my own wood style, Naruto said. How? Asked Tsunade. What I'm going to tell you only 2 people know, well actually 4, but 2 of them are no longer here, And you have to know it too, said Naruto, capturing Tsunade's full attention. I am the great-grandson of Tobirama Senju, said Naruto. Tsunade's eyes widened in shock, looking at the redhead without knowing what to say. In front of her was the descendant of her great-uncle, a descendant she didn't know existed. She had met Kushina, Naruto's mother, but she would never have imagined that she would be the granddaughter of Tobirama himself. How could she? Her uncle never married and their personalities were polar opposites. How is that possible? Asked Tsunade. It all started just before the first Shinobi War. Tobirama Oji-san went to Uzushiogakur to discuss some matter with the clan leader. He was there for almost 3 weeks, and during his stay he was with an Uzumaki woman, resulting in my grandmother, and you know the rest of the story. The only people who know this are us. The person who told me and possibly your grandmother Mito, he said. Tsunade slumped against a tree trying to process what she had just heard. She couldn't help but let a laugh escape her lips at the thought of her serious and stoic great-uncle having a secret affair, something that would most likely be from her grandfather. She looked at her now cousin with a small smile. Well, that makes things more interesting, said Tsunade, making Naruto smile back. Who told you about this? Asked Tsunade. Naruto's face went from a serious expression to a melancholic one, his head wandering. Someone who helped me when I needed it most and is no longer here, said Naruto. Tsunade frowned, seeing the pain in her familiar's only eye. She did what she thought was right. She put an arm around Naruto's shoulders, placing her hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, but like you told me last night, we can't fall into the sadness of losing a loved one, said Tsunade. I know, it's just no one ever helped me like she did and I miss her, said Naruto. I really understand. How about you tell me about your life and I tell you about mine? I have many stories to tell, said Tsunade. Are you sure? My life isn't that good, Naruto asked, receiving a nod. Tsunade didn't care about any of that, as she had just found a family and wanted to get to know Naruto better. The two stayed in the clearing for about 3 hours talking and getting to know each other. When they got hungry they went to eat and Naruto had to control Tsunade so that she didn't order too much alcohol, to which the blonde replied that she should relax more. Without realizing it, they had just adopted the roles of their grandparents. Hanzaku Gai night. Once again Tsunade and Jiraiya were drinking at a bar on the street. So, you and Naruto have made up, said Jiraiya. You could say so, Tsunade said with a small smile. He and I are more alike than it seems, Tsunade said. So you already know about his Makuten? She asked, receiving a nod. He showed it to me. It was amazing to see my grandfather's power again, Tsunade said. Did he tell you how he got it? Jiraiya asked. Maybe it's a clan secret anyway, Tsunade said with a mocking smile, making Jiraiya snort. There's something that has caught my attention and he hasn't told me, said Tsunade, her face suddenly calm. It's about his scar on his eye. You don't know anything about it, said Tsunade. Jiraiya remained deadly silent, avoiding Tsunade's gaze. He knew this question could come, but he didn't know if he was ready to answer. Letting out a sigh, he decided to face the matter like a man. Yes, I know, said Jiraiya. And you're going to tell me, said Tsunade. He nodded, and with a sigh, hoping she would be nice, he told her what happened. To say that Tsunade was angry would be an understatement. When he finished the story, she got up from her seat and hit him straight in the face, sending him flying down the street, bouncing on the dirt floor. What the hell were you thinking, idiot? Tsunade shouted, unconsciously releasing her killing intent all over the street. She landed there, Jiraiya, who was lying on the ground looking at the sky trying to get his bearings. She grabbed him by his kimono and brought it close to her face. Of all the stupid things you've done in your life, this is the worst. I swear on my ancestors, if I were dead, I would kill you right here, Tsunade said. She let go of Jiraiya and walked away. I don't want to hear from you anymore, Jiraiya, Tsunade said as she left. Naruto walks through Tsunade's hotel. Yesterday was definitely a good day and he wanted to spend time with her again. When he got to her dorm he knocked but no one answered. He knocked again but nothing happened. He was supposed to be here, feeling a bad feeling. He opened the door suddenly only to see Shizune unconscious on the floor. He ran over to her and tried to wake her up. Shizune, wake up, Naruto said while shaking her lightly. The black-haired girl woke up confused, seeing the redhead. Naruto, what are you? Tsunade-sama. She suddenly shouted as she stood up. Wait, Shizune, slow down, what's up with Tsunade? Naruto asked. Tsunade has gone to meet with Orochimaru. She promised to revive her brother and boyfriend if he healed her arms. We have to stop her, said Shizune. Before the two could do anything, the window opened and a very dizzy Jiraiya came in. Jiraiya-sama, said Shizune. And what's wrong with you? Naruto asked. Tsunade drugged me without me realizing it. She went to meet with Orochimaru, right? Jiraiya asked, receiving a nod of confirmation while Shizune healed him as best she could. We have to go with her. I highly doubt she'll help that snake, said Naruto, jumping out the window with the other two. Just wait, Tsunade, I'll be right there, Naruto thought. The reunion of the three Sannin is about to begin.